All right, welcome back, the genius. So let us start DOM manipulation. Okay, what is DOM? How do we manipulate DOM and everything about it? So this is an interesting subject to learn. And as a JavaScript developer, as a JavaScript programmer, you really need to know how to do this. Okay, so let's jump into it and let's see what is DOM. DOM means Document Object Model. All right. It is a programming interface and API for web documents. So now web documents can include XML, it can be HTML. Okay. So the DOM actually gives you a programming interface to manipulate the web documents, okay, using JavaScript. So with the DOM, you can actually do a whole lot of things. You can change the text of the document. You can change the appearance of it. You can remove elements from the document. You can add elements to the document. You can do a whole lot of things with it. Okay. So it represents the structure and the content of an HTML or XML document as a tree-like structure. All right. So when you write your HTML or you write your XML document, all right, the DOM will represent it, will convert that HTML or XML to something that looks like a tree. All right. It will create it like something that looks like a tree, where each element in an object is called a node. All right. So it is going to be like a tree. You know, when you have a tree, every element in that object is a node. And remember that the document object model is an object. We just discussed JavaScript objects. Okay, so the document element of the document object model is an object. All right, it's an object. So think of the DOM as the bridge between the HTML you write and the JavaScript code that manipulates it. You know, most of the when you write a web application or most of the web applications you see, all right, it is actually JavaScript manipulating the HTML to make it very interactive. All right, JavaScript is manipulating the HTML to make it very, very interactive. So how does JavaScript manipulate this HTML? JavaScript manipulates it using the DOM model. Okay, so JavaScript is not definitely manipulating the HTML itself. No, JavaScript is working with the DOM. All right, JavaScript is working with the DOM. So any changes that JavaScript make on the DOM, the browser will actually update the HTML. All right. So now let's get to understand better how the DOM is structured. How does this DOM look like? So imagine when you have an HTML document like this. Okay, you have the doc type, you have the HTML element, the head, the title, the body, H1 and paragraph. Okay, so when you have something like this, okay, this is your HTML page. This is the HTML page that you write. So the browser is going to create a DOM. The browser will convert this HTML that you just saw now, the browser will convert it into a DOM tree and it will look like this. All right, so look at it. This is the document of the document, HTML, head, and all this. So the browser will convert it and it will be document. Inside the document, we'll have the HTML, inside it will have the head, and inside the head, we have the title, we have the body. So you can see that this is how it works. The H1 and the H and the P are inside the body, the title is inside the head, and the head and the body they are inside the HTML. So it is like a hierarchical structure. Okay, so every HTML element becomes a node in this tree. The base of this DOM, everything is a node. Every element becomes a node. Node is actually the foundation of this DOM tree. Okay, so everything becomes a node. Even the text that you write becomes a node. Okay, so don't worry, we'll talk about types of node in the next section. But let us understand the DOM. So the DOM, when you when you have an HTML like that, the browser will convert this HTML to something like this. So let's go and write some code. Okay, I'm going to delete everything from here, and I will just create a new document type. All right. So the title is document, and I'm going to have H1. My DOM And I'm going to have a paragraph here. The DOM. Okay. So if I save this, all right, and open this in the browser, all right. So if you have live server, you can actually right click if you have live server and open with live server, okay. And if you don't know how to, if you don't have live server and you don't know how to add the extension to your Visual Studio Code, please reach out to us. Already we have taught this thing in the HTML. Yes, we have taught this how to do this in HTML. So before you even come to this, before you even come to this class, you should have done the HTML. All right, you should have taken the HTML class to an extent. So when I open with live server, it will open the browser for us. So let me go to the console. I will right click and inspect. So I will have my console here. So guess what? If I type in document, all right, and hit enter, you see this is an object. All right, it has given me an object here. So, and if I expand it, you will see, you will see this is what the tree looks like. All right. So the browser has converted this thing to a DOM, and this is what the tree looks like. Now, if I bring up what we had, if I let me look at this, you can see the document has HTML, and inside the HTML we have the head and the body. And inside the head, we have other elements, the title, the metadata, and inside the body, we have the head, the H1, and the body. Okay, and then this script that was included here. All right. Okay, so you can see how this is what the DOM looks like. So you access the DOM using the document object. Okay, so with this document, you can do a whole lot with it. All right. So let's have an analogy of the DOM so that we can understand it better. The DOM is like, think of your HTML, the HTML that you write, think of it as the blueprint of a house. You use the HTML, before you have a building, you have a blueprint. Your architect will design a blueprint for you, and you use that blueprint to go and create any house that you want to create. Now, the HTML that you write is the blueprint of the house, and the DOM is the actual house built. So the browser uses the HTML as a blueprint to build the DOM. Okay, so the browser will use the HTML to build the DOM. So whatever HTML you give the browser will use it to create the DOM. All right. So you can walk into rooms. Okay. Now, the HTML is the blueprint of a house. So you can use the DOM is the actual house built from that blueprint. So when we have built that house, we can walk into the rooms. That means we can traverse, okay, we can go through all the elements. Now, the elements are not the rooms. All right, the rooms of your house are the elements. Okay, so we can actually walk through all the elements in the DOM. We can walk into all the rooms in the house. We can redecorate. We can redecorate the house. We can change the styles. All right, we can actually repaint it. We can change the way we have decorated it. Okay, so that is changing the styles of the DOM. All right, or we can even tear down or rebuild the walls. After building the house, we can actually bring the whole thing down and rebuild it. So look at the rooms as the elements, and you redecorating the house is like you changing the styles of the DOM, or you can even destroy the house and rebuild it. Okay, so you can do all these things with the DOM. JavaScript is your toolbox. JavaScript is what you use to do all these things. Okay, if you want to traverse through the DOM, going through the elements, you use JavaScript. You can use JavaScript to redecorate it. You can use JavaScript to tear it down and rebuild it. Okay, so JavaScript is the main tool here. So the DOM is like a live interactive blueprint of your web page that JavaScript can read and manipulate at any time. So JavaScript is actually reading the DOM. The DOM is a live interactive blueprint of your web page. Okay, so if you want to manipulate the web page, you're actually going to be manipulate the DOM. And once you manipulate the DOM, the browser will update it. So the DOM is like a live interactive blueprint for your web page. You will create your HTML, and the HTML will be rendered by the browser. But the browser will render your HTML and also create a document-like tree that the JavaScript can use to manipulate the HTML. So how does the DOM work? Let's take a look at how the DOM works. First of all, when you write your HTML page, the browser will take that your HTML page and load it to the browser and load it so that the user will see it. So the browser loads the web page. When you have a web page, the browser will load it so that the user will see it. So when you open up a web page, the browser starts by loading the HTML file. So as we opened this document, this HTML, the browser loads it, all right, so that we can see it. That's the first thing the browser does. The browser will take this HTML page, this thing that we have written here, the browser will take it and load it, okay, so that the user can see it. So now we have something like this. So the browser will take this HTML and load it. So that's the first thing, loading the HTML page by the browser. So once the browser loads it, the browser is going to pass it. There's something we call passing. One of the things that the passing does is that the browser would also check if the HTML is correct. Okay, the browser would also check for maybe errors or something like that. But the browser will pass this HTML. It's called pass, not P-A-S-S. It is P-A-R-S-A. Okay, the browser will read the HTML from top to bottom. That is the passing. All right, it will pass it, it will read it from top to bottom. If there are any errors, it will also let you know. And as it is reading it from top to bottom, it will build the DOM for you. It will build the DOM, and the DOM is like it's an object that will be in memory, in your computer memory. The browser will read the HTML from top to bottom, and after reading it, it will now say, okay, I have gotten what I need to build. Now, the browser will use your HTML as the blueprint. Your HTML is the blueprint, all right? Then when the browser now, the browser is the builder, all right? Your architect will design your blueprint for you. You give it to the builder. The builder will not build it and make a house for you. So the browser will read the HTML, just like the builder will read the blueprint of your house. All right. The browser will read the HTML. That is what we mean by passing. And then build the DOM. That DOM is going to be an object in memory. Okay. This is called the DOM tree. It is called the DOM tree. So it has a visual, this is the visual idea of what it looks like. So the document, you see, when I did document, all right, we had the document, we had the HTML, the head, and the body. So if I go back to the browser, when I typed this document, all right, you see, this document gave us, if you want to access the DOM, you actually use this document. So this document gave us the HTML, and this HTML has head and body inside of it. Okay. So now this is what it looks like. Of course, you will not be seeing it, but this is what it looks like. And you can actually work with it like this. So each element becomes a node, all right? It starts with the HTML. The HTML is a node, all right? That's the parent, the parent node. Now the HTML element has head and body, all right, as their children. Okay, then the head has the title as its own child, while the body has the H1 and the paragraph as its children. So each element becomes a node in the DOM. There are different types of node. Every element that you put in your HTML will become a node. Even the text you write in your HTML will become a node. So we have the element node, we have the text node, all right? That's the text you write in your HTML. We have the attribute nodes, we have the comments node, all right? So we are going to talk about node later on, all right? We'll talk about different types of node and what they mean. But the thing is this, once the browser loads your HTML page, your web page, the browser will pass it to read it from top to bottom and create the DOM for you. So as it's creating the DOM, it will turn every element to a node. Every element, every attribute, every test, all right, you turn them to a node. And this, when you're not manipulating or working with the DOM, you'll be working directly with the nodes, okay? So the browser has loaded your web page. The browser has passed it and created the DOM. Now the DOM is now available for live interaction. Now the DOM is now live and interactive, waiting for JavaScript or waiting for you as the developer to do whatever you want to do with it. So at this point, the browser has a full live DOM that JavaScript can interact with. All right. So you use JavaScript to interact with the DOM. So now you can access the elements. Okay, you can access the elements. Okay, so let's try to access the element. Don't worry, we actually have a separate section where we'll talk about we'll explain more details on how to manipulate this DOM. Okay, but let's just give you a hint of it. So let's access an element. So we are going to access the H1 element. Okay, so if I go to the browser, I can, let me clear this console. I can say, document dot query element, query selector. And what do I want to select? I'm looking for H1. Okay, so when I do this, you can see it has given me, and remember, this our H1 is this, so it has given me the element. You can see I queried for it. I say, give me the document. I want to have access to it, and he gave it to me. So I can also do something like this. I can say const H1 is equal to, I can say document dot query selector, and it will give me, I'm looking for H1. Okay, so I can now say H1 and I get it. So I can work with this H1. All right, I can say H1 dot, all right, it will give me a whole lot of things. Like I said, this is an object. All right, these are the properties, the function that you can work with. So don't worry, we are coming to that later on. But you can actually, once the DOM is alive, is live and very interactive, so you can actually do whatever you want to do. You can access elements, you can change the content. Okay, so if I want to change the content of that our H1, remember, this H1 already has the text is my DOM, so I can change it from here. I can say H1.text content, the text content, and I will say is equal to your DOM. And you can see immediately it is updated. Immediately I did this, all right, I said H1.text content is equal to your DOM. It was, instead of, it changed from my DOM to DOM, from my DOM to your DOM. Okay, so this is how it is. The browser would load your web page, all right, then it will pass it, read it from top to bottom, create the DOM for you. And once the DOM is ready, it will be live and very, very, very ready for interaction. Okay, so, and that is what we're actually doing here. We can access it, we can change the text content, we can change the styles. Okay, if I want to change the color of this our H1, I can also do it. I can say H1.style.color, and I will say is equal to red. And once I hit enter here, you can see it was immediately changed. Okay, so you can do a whole lot of things with this DOM. Okay, you can add, you can remove. Don't worry, we will have a separate session for this that will have enough time to teach you all these things. Okay, so you can add or remove elements. Okay, you can even react to events. Once a user, when you know all these things that you do when you click on a button, all right, it is actually you manipulating the DOM and you're listening to an event. So we will have separate sessions for those ones and we'll explain how to do all these things to you. Okay, so now once you do anything with the DOM, the browser will update the page, and you saw it. Immediately I changed the color the browser updated it. Immediately I changed the text content, the browser updated it. So how does the DOM work? First of all, your browser will load the web page. After loading the web page, the browser will pass it, read it from top to bottom, and create the DOM. All right. After creating the DOM will now be live and waiting for you to interact with it. And any interaction, any changes you make to the DOM, the browser would update the page for you. So whenever JavaScript changes the DOM, like updating text or adding an element, the browser will automatically repaint it or re-render that part of the page. So you don't have to reload the page. All right. Changes happen in real time. You saw it as soon as I changed the color, it happened in real time. Okay. So what are the differences between the live DOM and the static HTML? Remember, it is your HTML that the browser converted to the DOM. The HTML is the blueprint, the DOM is the house, while the browser is the builder. Okay, so the HTML is just a file, very static. All right, it doesn't do anything on its own. The browser will just load it and the user will see it. But if you want something live, okay, they use the DOM. The DOM is a live object in memory. The HTML can't change on its own, but the DOM can be changed dynamically using JavaScript. You saw what we just did on the console. The HTML is what you write. Meanwhile, the DOM is what the browser understands and builds. You write the HTML, the browser builds the DOM for you. All right. So let's try it yourself, okay? We have already done that. We have already done some things. So here we can actually change the body, the style of the color of the body. We have changed the color of the H1. So let's also do more experiment here. So instead of targeting the H1, I can say document dot body dot style dot background color. All right, background, and I will say it is equal to blue. Just look at what will happen immediately. I hit enter. You see the body, everything about this web page has turned to blue. All right, so this is how the DOM works. So why is the DOM so important? It enables dynamic content. This is the reason why our web applications are very dynamic. All right, you can see you can change things. You can interact with the DOM, change colors, do everything, animation. You can do a whole lot of things. That is why